This is Scotty Reed with a Black Talk Radio News report. And on this segment, I want to take a look at this article that was published in the Washington Post. It was written by a Michael S. Rosenwald. Now, the title says the Klu Klux Klan was dead. The first Hollywood blockbuster revived it. Now, there's some truth to that, but it doesn't tell the whole story. Okay, what they're talking about is the film A Birth of a Nation. So I went through this article to see if they mentioned, because I actually did some research on this and did a segment on it before. But President Ulysses S. Grant, who was a former Army general and became a president of the United States, annihilated the Klu Klux Klan using the Klan Act of 1861. That act was also known by other names like the Civil Rights Act of 1861. Now, they do mention that in this piece, but there's a lot of information that isn't here. For example, I'm looking to see if they tell where the first screening of this film, well, I shouldn't say the first screening of this film because I don't know that, but the first White House screening of the film. And so it doesn't mention anything in this article about Woodrow Wilson screening this film, which was actually the President of the United States endorsing the film by screening the film at the White House. Again, this was the first film that was ever screened at the White House. Now, they did mention the Klan Act. They did mention that Ulysses S. Grant had destroyed them using the Klan Act of 1861. But it says nothing about the U.S. government under Woodrow Wilson being involved in the rise or the reappearance or reorganization of this terrorist organization. See, this is a terrorist organization. This isn't some country club or anything like that. They committed acts of terrorism, and they are still engaged in acts of terrorism. So this article is leaving out some key history. It seems that it seeks to blame Hollywood for the rise of the film, when you cannot dismiss the impact of President Woodrow Wilson screening this film in the White House. Okay, now the Klan Act of 1861, let me just read a little bit. The Enforcement Act of 1871, also known as the Civil Rights Act of 1871, the Force Act of 1871, and the Klu Klux Klan Act. The Third Enforcement Act, or Third Klu Klux Klan Act, is an act of the United States Congress which empowered the president to suspend the writ of habeas corpus to combat the Ku Klux Klan. Does that sound familiar? Does that sound sort of like the Patriot Act, where Congress gave the President of the United States to suspend habeas corpus and then start throwing people in the prison down there in Guantanamo Bay without a trial or a kangaroo court military trial? So we see how they are going after, quote unquote, Al-Qaeda, or using the Patriot Act, quote unquote, to go after so-called ISIS. All right. But here is the thing. The Klan Act of 1861 has never been repealed. It is still on the books, and any president can use it to destroy the Klan. But again, as I stated, I'm going to go to the Birth of a Nation's Wikipedia page, where it talks about, let me see, The Birth of a Nation, originally called The Klansman, is a 1915 American silent epic drama film directed and co-produced by D.W. Griffith and starring Lillian Gish. Let me move on down. It is the first, and wait a minute, here's some more interesting information. In 1992, the United States Library of Congress deemed the film culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant and selected it for preservation in the National Film Registry. So y'all know how ISIS makes these videos and how the United States government and these politicians and other people go after these websites to take them down, calling it propaganda, terrorist propaganda. What's the difference? There is no difference, except for those groups are mainly non-white, non-Christian groups. And they're rightly, labeled terrorists. Anytime you attacking a civilian population in order to make political gains, then you a terrorist organization. All right. The Klu Klux Klan is a terrorist organization. In 1861, Congress did the right thing in passing the Klan Act of 1861. Again, it goes under different names, and prosecuted these people as terrorists, okay? And that destroyed them until, again, 1915, and here comes Woodrow Wilson endorsing the Klan by screening the film in the White House. Again, I want to keep stressing, the Klan Act, the Civil Rights Act of 1861 is still a law that's on the books, and the United States federal government is not protecting citizens from these terrorist organizations and allowing them to spread. We can even say some of these white nationalist Klan groups, neo-Nazi groups, are being supported by the United States government as well as state governments when they are given nonprofit status. When people can provide material support to this terrorist organization and get a tax write-off for it. So this is Scotty Reed with a Black Talk Radio news report. It is always best to do your own research. Support independent black media today by making a donation to the nonprofit Black Talk Media Project.